is Karina and I'm really excited to show you how to make this Pinafore dress. It's an amazing garment because you can wear it with a t-shirt, a cardigan or a long blouse, whether it's in the winter or in the summer. I drafted the pattern to have a loose fit with a squared neckline, so it will be gorgeous and comfortable. For this project, I'm going to use this black denim with a little bit of stretch, and I'm going to use this golden thread to match. Let me show you how to make the pattern for it. Use your front bodice block or a comfortable shirt, fold it in half and hide the sleeves. Using a long piece of paper, draw a guideline, leaving a space at the edge of the paper. Place your front bodice block on this line and trace it on the paper. You can use whatever measurements you want. These are the ones I used. I added 2 cm of ease to the armhole line, moved it down 5 cm at the armhole and 12 cm at the neckline. Then I found the middle of the shoulder and marked 2 cm for each side, which will be a 4 cm strap. Then I traced the armhole line and the squared neckline. Mark the height you want for your dress on that guideline. Mine will be a mid-length. At the end of the guideline, I drew a horizontal line 60 cm long, and at the end of it, I moved it up 12 cm and marked a point. From this point to the guideline, I traced a curve, which is the hem of the dress. Now, you just need to connect the point from the side to the armhole. Add the seam allowance on the side of the dress, at the hem, at the neckline and the armhole. I'm going to use a 1 cm seam allowance for everything. If you want to cut the dress on the fold of the fabric, you don't need to add a seam allowance in the center front and back. Make the same process for the back of your t-shirt or your back bodice block. As I'm learning digital pattern making, I made this whole process in Illustrator. It's my first digital sewing pattern. I transformed the pattern to A4 size and printed. To tape the pattern, I like to fold the margins on the edge of the table instead of cutting them, and aligning the markings. I use glue, but you can use tape to join the pages. I start by ironing my fabric, folding it in half and placing my pattern the best way to use all the fabric. I pin it to keep everything in place and start cutting. To make the facing, which will be the finishing touch for the neckline and the armholes, I marked 5 cm below the armhole and draw a straight line to the middle of the front, then just cut the part. Make the same process for the back. If you want to cut the facing on the fold of the fabric, just fold the seam allowance in the center front of the back and front. In my case, I didn't have enough fabric for the facing, so I had to buy another piece of denim with stretch. You can use another piece of fabric to make this finish, as long as it has the same characteristics as the main fabric. If you want, you can add pockets. I will leave a video on the card where I show you how to make the pattern for this pocket. Use an overlock or zigzag stitch to make the finishing of the hem, the pockets and the sides of the front and back of the dress. With the right sides together, pin the front pieces of the dress and make the same process for the back pieces. Sew the center of the front of the dress and the back with a 1 cm seam allowance. Since I will top stitch both sides of the seam, I will finish each side of the seam allowance with an overlock stitch. So the seam will look like this. Make the same process for the back. With the right sides together, place the front of the dress on the top of the back and pin the shoulders. Sew with a 1 cm seam allowance. On the side of the dress, mark 15 cm from the armhole to place the pocket. Use a tailor chalk or an erasable pen. Pin the pockets and the dress with the right sides together. Make the same for the other side and check it if the pockets are aligned. Then, make the same process for the other side of the dress. Sew all the pockets. Pin the facing shoulders, placing the front and the back with the right sides together and sew them. Finish with an overlock or zigzag stitch the shoulders of the facing and the dress. Press the shoulders. The center seams of the dress and the pockets. Top stitch each side of the center seams, always checking if the seam allowance are separated at the bottom. Make the same for the back. Then just iron both sides. To sew the neckline, place the facing on the dress, always with the right sides together, aligning by the shoulders. Then just pin the rest of the neckline. Sew the neckline, being careful in the curves. Press the neckline seam and make small notches on the curves. Being careful not to cut the seam. This will allow the curved seams to lay flat and give a better finish when turned out. Turn the facing out and iron it well. So the facing doesn't show on the front of the dress. The Burrito Method is a type of built-in finish that we usually make on sleeveless garments. Both the neckline seam and the armhole seam are built in. To make this, start by rolling the facing and the dress from one armhole to the other. Turn the pieces so the right sides of the facing and the dress match the armhole. And the rolled part will be between them in the middle, like the burrito's filling. Align the seam and pin the entire armhole. Be careful not to sew the rolled part, which is between the exterior parts, the tortillas. Make small notches in the curves of the armhole and start turning the entire piece out. Pull it right side out to the shoulder channel gently. Then, press the seams well and make the same process for the other side of the armhole. Top stitch the neckline and the armholes to have a good finishing. And this is how it turned out. Align the sides of the dress and pin them. Being careful to position the pockets in the same place. Sew the two sides and then finish with an overlock or zigzag stitch. iron the seams well. I'm going to make a simple hem for my dress, so I'm going to overlock all around and fold 2 centimeters inwards. With the help of the iron, press the hem and pin it. Sew the entire hem . And finally, we will go to the last round of ironing the entire dress. And this is how this Pinafore dress turned out. Oh wait, the next day I decided to make more top stitching on the neckline and the armhole because I love top stitching and denim. Now, this is the final version. So if you like this video, please subscribe to my channel, give me a like and share with your sewing friends. Thank you so much for watching. See you in the next video.